What is going on, Lake Pro Tackle fam? I am here with two special guests for today's video. We're going to be talking about some weird, obscure baits that we really like to fish this time of year. Got John Shin and Peter Husser, my guys. We're going to be talking about some cool stuff, so stay tuned. Make sure to follow them on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm going to have them all linked down below. Let's go ahead and hop into it.
So we're here at Lake Pro Tackle to talk about some obscure baits, quote unquote obscure baits that we've been catching a lot of fish on. My obscure bait is the Biwa S trout. Now you may be thinking, it's not really obscure, but in the world of bass fishing, I think the glide bait reigns supreme. I think that everybody loves throwing a glide bait.
Choppy.
Yep.
It's gotta be choppy.
Because they like seeing that response to every single half turn of the reel and every single rod twitch. It's exciting. Even when you don't get bit, let's be honest, it's pretty engaging.
I do a thing, it does a thing.
Yeah. The S trout is pretty dummy proof. So I've been fishing this bait for a little over a year now, since before the Bassmaster Classic last year, okay? And I have tons of video out on my Instagram and Facebook of me literally standing at shore, casting this thing to the moon. The S trout literally bombs. This thing weighs just under 2 ounces, 1.8 ounces. This is the 6.5 inch version, which is probably my favorite size.
Do I need a crazy expensive like broomstick to throw that?
No, you could actually throw this on your frog rod or whatever, or even a heavy jig rod. Okay. It throws incredibly well. It's a multi-segmented swim bait. Okay, it has several segments in it, as you can see. Let me take it out of the package so you could actually get a good look at it. Okay?
So I don't need to go buy a special rod, a special reel. What line am I tying that to?
Now, that's speculative. Because some people feel like anytime you throw a 6 inch or bigger bait, you gotta throw it on 25-pound line.
Yeah, what do I gotta do? Try that 25-pound fluoro?
No, I would throw it on anything from
60-pound braid.
60-pound braid to like a 20-pound leader, or straight 18 to 20-pound mono or fluorocarbon. Okay?
Go poly?
Yeah, sure. It's a treble hook bait, right? So you want a little bit of stretch and a little bit of give, okay? As it comes with good hooks, good hardware. I've caught everything from bass to, I think the biggest striper I have on film is probably about 11 pounds on this bait, okay? And if you know anything, you want to test the bait and its durability, there's no better way to do it than on giant striper.
With a fish that's trying to actively just
gator roll and destroy your bait, And so many have fallen victim to this thing. Now the way you fish this, you hear that? You hear that? It's not a silent bait.
How do I make it do that in the water?
Just reel. That's how simple it is.
that's the point.
Literally.
That's the point.
Yes, just reel, okay? You bomb it out. It's a slow sinking bait, okay? It has a rate of fall of, I would say, probably close to 8 to 10, which means in 10 seconds, it'll fall 8 to 10 feet. Okay, if you just count it down.
I was gonna say, for a dummy like me who doesn't know about all these technical swim bait terms.
About a foot a second, how about that? About a foot a second, okay? Maybe a little less than that, a little less than a foot a second. So you can count it down, okay? Or you can burn it on the surface. This time of year, all the way through post spawn and shad spawn, that's how I'm gonna be fishing it. I'm gonna bomb it to the shoreline and I'm ripping it back, possibly adding a few short breaks. When I tell people to burn it and pause it, they take that pause almost too literally.
Like a jerkbait pause.
Right.
When you say pause, that's...
I'm talking about a break in cadence. So it's like a nanosecond, okay? I mean, just a short break. And what happens is that bait will be snaking along and it'll kind of bunch up and slow down and then it'll start snaking along again. And that's what triggers them, okay? If you've ever fished a shad spawn before, you know your competition is 1 billion shad, okay? I'm a home lake right now. He's seen the graph. 1 trillion shad. It's hard to stand out.
Swim around with their mouth open and they will be
Yes, so you have to stand out. And the best and probably the easiest way to stand out, aside from spending an obscene amount of money on a bait, is speed. That causes and triggers a reaction.
I've watched the bait balls on live scope spread like as you rip the bait through, and then you watch bigger blips, fish, see that just happened, and they're like...
And this thing is waiting.
Yeah.
The bait ball has dispersed. This thing is
so
there.
there's a clearing.
And it will come and smoke it, okay? Very easy to throw. This thing retails, I believe, at 20 bucks, if that. It's cheap in the grand scheme of
I mean, I'm used to
Swim
looking at
baits.
$160 to $180
Right.
two-piece
right,
glide bait.
Right. I mean, it's like a $25 bait, dude. These days, sub $40 is like hard to find for a swim bait. And I get it, right? It's a big bait. And let's be honest, guys, you're probably, short of you casting this off or breaking off, you're really not gonna lose it. It doesn't weigh 4 ounces. It's not like chucking a giant hunk of metal. Like it casts almost effortlessly.
So to recap, I can use a heavy jig rod or frog rod.
Or a swim bait rod if you're an
Or
enthusiast.
if you've already got one.
I'll throw this on my iScope rod.
Okay,
right?
yeah, for sure.
You know? And it's obviously a little bit overkill, but it'll handle it just fine.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then 18 to 20 pound line.
Yep. If you're going with straight monofilament, fluorocarbon, or copoly, 18 to 20 pound.
Most Googans like me. But if you're experienced, the best way to do it is going to be what? Braid to leader?
I love braid to leader because, and here's the reason why. When you're fishing a bait that fast and you get hit, you want stretch because it's a treble hook bait. However, because braid is absolutely unforgiving, when they hit that bait, it's almost an instantaneous hook set. So there's no hook set involved.
So you're not having to.
You just keep reeling.
That's it. When they hit it, I'm thinking frog, I'm thinking jig, so I'm jacking them.
No, you just keep reeling. Keep reeling through that bite.
What happens if I jack them?
Most likely you'll pull the hooks.
So, don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when you don't give a fish an opportunity to really dissect and observe and look at a bait, they don't come up and just suck it in.
Right.
Okay? They're literally slashing at it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh crap, right? And
the decision was made feet away from the bait. So.
Right. So you probably a lot of times in my case when I was catching them, I caught them in the side of the mouth, in the corner of the mouth, or underneath the mouth. Or in the gill plate even, man, because they're just swiping. And we're talking striper too, right? Bass will do that too. When they're hitting something real fast, they're not as surgical as when they have. So
you're just saying, keep reeling down, get the pressure on them, keep tension.
Brings me to another point. How many fish you think you catch because they're hungry? Very few.
Yeah.
Being able to trigger a reaction bite is huge if you want to be consistent. They're not always going to be hungry, you know? So being able to fish a bait quickly, very quick, especially, and this is something I tell people during my courses, how fast do you work a bait? How do you work a bait? Here's the dummy-proof answer. Warming trend, fast-er. Cooling trend, slow-er. It's that simple, okay? So right now we're heading towards spring.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, we do have cold fronts coming here and there. Okay, but
water temps though
are trending up. They're upticking.
Yeah.
That's when something like this is going to start to really play, and you're going to stand out from everybody else that's doing the same glide, 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 or jerk, jerk, jerk. You stand out by throwing something that literally that has a profile, a presence, and a sound that is familiar to a predatory fish.
So profile and presence are going to get those fish that want to eat.
Right.
And then sound and speed is going to get the ones that maybe they're not hungry, but they'll react to it.
Right. The sound will help them track it. So even a big bait like this, you can fish it in stained water because it has the sound element, right? A glide bait, generally speaking, is absolutely silent. Mm-hmm. So you have to have, in my mind, a minimum of 2 to 3 feet of visibility to effectively fish a glide. Not saying it's impossible in muddy waters, especially if you're familiar with your home pond and you know where they've set up. And that's what the internet would have you believe, that, oh yeah, anybody can go to a muddy body of water and catch them on glide. No, man, stop it, okay? Stop it. You're an anomaly, and you're talking based on your own personal experiences. Don't speak on behalf of the rest of the 3 billion people, okay? So sound means you can fish it in more stained environments. You don't have to have crystal clear clarity.
Well, that's a super unique sound too. Like
yes, it's almost like a chatterbait.
Very similar.
Like a jackhammer.
Yeah, little more finesse though. That
sound it is more subtle than a jack.
Yeah, it's not like an obtrusive just.
Because it's not metal banging on lead, right?
Yeah.
So, but it is definitely a noticeable, vibrating sound, right?
Yeah.
And that helps them track the bait more than anything, okay? And that's important. Whether it's stained water or you're in a flooded ocean full of shad, you have to stand out, which is why we throw things like underspins, why spinner baits work, why this will work. So pick up your S-Trout at Lake Pro Tackle and stand out from the crowd, okay? obscure bait of the day for me.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It's badass.
All right. You're gonna do the underspin? That's not obscure though.
The way that I fish it,
But the bait is, yeah.
The way that I fish it is obscure.
Yeah.
And the reason that I like this is obscure.
Let me see.
And
Is it still recording?
since I'm already buying the stuff anyways, we'll go ahead and rig it up.
Let's talk about your obscure bait. What is that bait, Pete?
What's up, guys? Today, I'm bringing a little bit of a twist to a not so obscure method of fishing, but a maybe a little bit different than you're used to. And that was honestly, I stumbled upon this kind of due to my lack of knowledge, but then it was confirmed, right, when I had more experienced anglers actually show me that there's absolutely a method to the madness. So, a couple of baits that I'm showing you today. One is the Biwa tail gunner. This is a 4.5 inch tail gunner, and it's in the, what color is this?
This is your shiner?
This is your shiner. So it's got that dark back with the gold belly, and it's not your typical, I guess it's not your average swim bait profile. If you look, right, it's not that triangle shape, okay? It's wider than it is tall. Presents some opportunities that I'll talk about right now. And then you've got a nice hinge in the middle with a very active tail in the back. There's a few reasons why you should or shouldn't use this during certain times of the year, but for the most part, this is gonna be something that, like I said, a couple years ago when I was throwing an underspin, I didn't necessarily know exactly how to fish it, didn't know exactly where to fish it. I just knew that it kind of combined a couple of the attributes of a few different baits that I already had confidence in, right? And one, like this may not apply to you if you've been fishing for a couple years, but based on tackle sales, I can absolutely tell you that that new angler who goes to your Wally World or whatever and buys a pack of little swim baits, those little Berkeley things, they're just throwing those, they're casting them out, and they're retrieving. Casting them out, reel back, casting them out, reel back. And then the other side of it is you've got a blade on the bottom. So this happens to be the Owner 5/0 underspin, and you can see in terms of size.
Flashy swimmer.
Yeah. Sorry. Owner.
Flashy swimmer.
Flashy swimmer. Mm-hmm. And this is in a 5/0. It size-wise pairs perfectly with the Biwa tail gunner. Now here's where the difference comes in. So what I thought in my infinite wisdom of not being a very educated angler was, the fish aren't biting my bait because what I was doing was casting out and reel back in, cast out, reel back in. So in my mind, I thought, well, I'm pulling it too fast. Little did I know you can't actually outreel a fish if they want to eat something.
Never.
Like, you can't do it.
Never.
But in my mind, I thought, man, that's probably why I'm missing some bites. And so I liked this as opposed to that open hook, just a Berkeley swimmer, because it was, pretty weedless, right? I got hung up a lot less. And so what I did at my local marinas was I'd take it out and I'd throw it and I'd watch my line. Okay, I knew that my lure was on the bottom because my line, stopped pulling in. And then I would just slowly sweep it with my rod, and then I'd reel my slack, and I'd slowly sweep it with my rod, and then I'd reel the slack. And every now and then, more often than how often I was getting bit before, just dunk, just boom. Felt just like a jig bite. Swing on them, reel them in, flip them onto the bank. Well, that translated into flip them into the boat, flip them into the kayak, everything else. Recently, dude right here definitely confirmed that while what I thought I was doing was simply slowing it down, what I was actually doing was presenting it as maybe an injured fish and also adding a sound element to it that they just weren't hearing from this style of bait. Typically when they see stuff scuttling across the bottom, right? It's a jig, it's got a big skirt, it's got, you know, these different attributes that they probably saw 15 times before you made your first cast. And due to the fact that this flashy swimmer can be rigged pretty much weedless, honestly, the method that I fish this at my home lake, right? This might change depending on where you're fishing, but around the marinas on my home lake, I've got rock that goes down the embankment, and then you've got the dirt down at the bottom. And depending on where you're at, that could be 4 feet deep, could be 12 feet deep. But once you figure out where that is, if you don't have electronics, you can cast it down there, and you will feel a very distinct difference between this settling on a rock, right, like a tick, or this settling onto sand and mud, which it just stops and you don't really feel much feedback. And once you find that little transition point, again, fish differently depending on where you're at, but on my home lake, throw this down to that little transition point, and you do not retrieve this with your reel, you retrieve it with the rod. And it's just a slow crawl. You want to just be ticking those rocks, and as you tick over those rocks, it's making that sound. And again, as I talked about that tail, you don't have to be reeling this for that tail to just give a nice easy flutter right behind it. Literally moving that bait along that transition point with your rod, because of that tail, will allow it to just sit there and flutter behind it. So, you know, don't look at a bait like this and think that it's just a mid-column cast and retrieve bait. Certainly, dragging it across the bottom with your rod, lifting that rod to get it up off, and then letting it fall back down. The flutter of that blade, the flutter of that tail, it's gonna elicit some bites from some fish who, you know, maybe they're hiding, looking for a opportunity place for when bait comes by. Maybe they've hunkered down into the rocks, right, because they just finished feeding. But I can promise you this, these animals will not pass up an easy opportunity at a good meal. And between the flash of the blade, between the tick of that head hitting the rock, between the flutter of a tail moving by them very slowly, that creates some pretty awesome opportunities to get some awesome bites. And they're generally not soft bites either. It generally feels like a jig bite.
That presentation is literally, if there's only one thing that I could fish the entire day, it'd be that. On any body of water, I don't care what body of water it is.
Grass.
Okay. Yep, doesn't
Rocks.
matter. I don't care if there's not a blade of grass in it. Like, I will still fish that bait because I can hit wood, I can hit docks, I can fish rocks, and it's coming through everything. And I probably won't go through 1,000 of them over the course of a day.
Yeah.
So yes, it is literally a 4x4. And you know, think about ticking the tops of the grass. Like, you know how people fish a trap this time of year.
Yeah.
Fire it out,
Getting
you
it
find
down.
that cadence, and then you keep that rod tip up, and you're working it over the grass. And there's technique to that. But this thing, and every time, I don't care how good of a trap fisherman you are, you're getting bogged up in grass every now and then. This will never happen.
Yeah.
Ever.
You can let it fall into the grass, rip it out,
Yeah.
let it flutter back down. The other benefit of this too, and there's a bunch of different, BKK makes some super awesome underspins as well.
Those are my favorite. The Titan Rider, Titan drivers, yeah, those are my favorite.
Price point wise, for $650 for a pair of these, the flashy swimmers from here at Lake Pro, man.
Because you're not losing them. Like,
Yeah.
they're weedless. You're not losing them.
You can literally just throw this out, let it sink all the way.
Yeah.
Again, drag it, rip it. This is a very versatile bait to fish a multitude of water columns and effectively do that. Even if it's, you know, fish are hitting top water and you don't have anything else, you can burn this across the top, and that little willow blade is going to help out in terms of, you know, disturbing and moving more water so they can feel it. They've got the flash so they can see it. You got the tail movement so that it, you know, identifies as something that they'd want to eat. No, like John said, it's a 4x4. It can be fished a ton of ways. If you think that every bait in your tackle box can only be fished one specific way, let this be a lesson to you. That is absolutely untrue. So swing by Lake Pro Tackle, visit lakeprotackle.com, pick you up some of the 4.5-inch Biwa tail gunners. If you're like me and you think that a little bit bigger bait might elicit a response from a little bit bigger fish, there's also a 5.5, I think it's a 5.5-inch size. I don't know. Got a pile of them in my basket, but they'll also work on that. And yeah, get bit, lose less baits.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's about it. So that's my obscure bait.
Y'all know how to talk.
We do.
I guess it's my turn.
Okay.
Yeah, can't have two.
We're in Texas, I'm not California. They can't handle it.
All right, guys. So while Pete and John held down the shop here in the video, I was, actually working.
He was busy.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
You
yeah,
had a
I got
line of
busy.
people, so
Yeah.
there's that.
So my little obscure bait here is one that's pretty new to the shop. We got it in a few months ago. This right here is the Fish Maggot Tail. This is a 4.5-inch bait. And what's really neat about it is it's not just your average stick bait trick worm. It's a little bit smaller, a little more power finesse oriented. And the way I really like to fish this here is going to be on a flick shake style rig. So a weighted wacky rig, essentially. Now, you can make your own. Jackal has a flick shake where it's the hook, little ball weight, basically a split shot on that segment there. And this
Kind of stinky, Sam.
it kind of smells like saf, kind of like a G-Crack Frito corn chip,
In case you didn't know, this bait that he's holding, it is a highly scented bait.
Yes, it smells like G-Crack. It's using the same SAF material. So there's a lot of salt, amino, whatever the F stands for, fishiness. I don't know.
It's a fishy bait.
It's a fishy bait. It smells really good to me. I don't know.
Yeah, Fritos.
Little garlic, little bit. Smell like garlic? A little bit?
There's a hint. There's a hint.
Just little dash.
Take a little Tony Sacheries on there, spice it up.
Some Old Bay. Love me some Old Bay. So yeah, anyway, this bait right here, it is, you cut off the back section and it's basically just a trick worm, just pretty standard. But what makes this bait really unique is going to be the back section of it. It has this little, pincher
Looks like a
style
half claw.
Yeah, kind of like a half claw. And what this really allows this bait to do is give it a secondary action. So when it's on the flick shake, the way I like to rig it, so the claw either points down, side, or up. The way I like to rig the flick shake is going to be holding that claw sideways to where it's coming in, either pointing left or pointing right. Put that hook straight down, and what that is going to do as that bait falls, it is going to shimmy back and forth, giving an extra added layer of action that a normal Senko or a normal trick worm just doesn't have. And what's nice about this bait too is it's still pretty rigid. It still moves around, but in the water, it is actually going to remain pretty straight out, creating a little bit bigger profile. Now, it's only 4.5 inches and it's pretty thin, but having that extra action, it is going to roll sideways and also have a very good crazy wobble going down, which is really nice. We only have like 3 or 4 different colors. This one here is my favorite. It's kind of like a light green pumpkin with black and blue flake. It's gonna work in almost all water clarities, and really that I found line size doesn't matter too much. Like I'm still using my standard 10 to 15 braided line on a spinning rod with anywhere from 10, 12, 14, 16 pound fluorocarbon leader, and you're still gonna get great action. So, as we talk about a lot when it comes to your different line size and your different weights, you gotta pair it up accordingly. Do they want it fast? Do they want it slow? Another great way to fish this is on the same flick shake style head, popping it up off the bottom, just letting it go back down on a little bit heavier head, a little bit faster. I'm not sure why they eat it. It's just a piece of plastic, but that can be said about almost anything we have in here.
Just about anything.
Yeah. So really cool bait, fish maggot tail. Not going to take as long as Pete and John talking about their stuff.
Fair enough.
But that's kind of what I like. Really cool, little power finesse bait, and maggot tail from Fish Magnet.
Where can you get it? Anywhere around the Gainesville area that might carry it?
Yeah. There's this place called Lake Pro Tackle.
Okay.
They're pretty cool. Now look, you got it on your shirt.
That place.
Oh, me too. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video here. Definitely give Pete a follow, give John a follow as he hovers around the camera back there. We'll see you in the next video. See you guys.